Hello and welcome to Startup Street. I'm Arundhati Ramanan, and with me from the Bangalore studio is Ritu Singh. These are the top headlines from the startup world. Food aggregator Zomato launches an 8,500 crore rupee qualified institutional placement at a floor price of nearly 266 rupees per share. The exercise will change Zomato's shareholding pattern to give it more domestic investors.
Homegrown social media company ShareChat posts a 33% revenue growth to Rs 793 crores in FY24 as the ShareChat app becomes EBITDA profitable. Adjusted EBITDA losses fell by 67%. The company is on track for a cash break-even by March next year.
True Diamond, a lab-grown diamond startup, has raised $1 million in a seed funding round led by Titan Capital with participation from Huddle Ventures, Zero Pearl Ventures and others. The funds will be used to launch exclusive boutique outlets in Mumbai and Delhi NCR.
Meesho launches its Gen AI-powered voice bot to improve user experience and customer support. The e-commerce marketplace says the bot has slashed per-call costs to 25% compared to human-operated calls and anticipates a cost reduction to 15 to 20% in the future.
The government may soon allow 100% FDI in the insurance sector. Sources say a composite license mechanism may also get the green light. Adds that the government hopes to amend the laws in the ongoing winter session of Parliament.
Well, in what's brewing today, Spacetech startup PierSight has unveiled its Maiden satellite Varuna, which will deliver 24/7 all-weather maritime surveillance. Varuna will fly from ISRO's PSLV launcher as a secondary payload aboard the PSLV orbital experiment platform. Now, on that note, let me invite both the co-founders of PierSight, Gaurav Seth, the CEO of the company, as well as Vineet Bansal, its Chief Technology Officer. Gaurav, Vineet, welcome to Startup Street and many thanks for your time here. Gaurav, start by telling us about why Varuna, why you chose to build this, and the tech that you're using for this all-weather maritime surveillance, no matter the weather conditions.
Right. So Varuna is an in-orbit demonstrator of synthetic aperture radar, or SAR. SAR is a technology which can see through clouds and image at night. So we are using the POEM platform of ISRO to demonstrate indigenously developed subsystems for our SAR, which are the deployable antenna as well as complete electronics and mechanical and thermal systems.
All right. Well, Vineet, what's really remarkable is that PierSight has built Varuna in just 9 months. How did you manage costs and timelines and risks to achieve this in an industry where, 18 to 24 months is the norm?
Yeah, I think our strong domain expertise in building satellites, both me and Gaurav come from the background of building satellites, really helped us put together, again, a very strong team who could build this in a very short span of time. And I think the other thing which helped was a hard deadline from ISRO, that if we don't finish this by this deadline, we will be losing our slot. And lastly, we have a very strong push towards indigenization. And since we were indigenizing everything, we could bring this in a very low cost as well as manage the timelines very effectively.
Well, ISRO's deadline definitely an incentive to build this faster. But Gaurav, what about monetization plans for your satellite technologies, the constellation? What industries or governments have shown most interest in Varuna's capabilities so far?
So PierSight was the winner of IndusX prize, which was with the Indian Coast Guard as well as the US Coast Guard. And with respect to government agencies like Department of Trade, Fisheries, maritime companies, insurance companies, as well as hedge funds will be benefited from our technology. We'll be able to image all parts of oceans at all times once our constellation is complete.
All right. And Vineet, what about the timeline and strategy for scaling Varuna from, a full-fledged to a full-fledged satellite constellation? And how will you ensure that there is rapid development for future satellites as well, with or without the ISRO deadline?
Yeah, we plan to, fully launch our constellation and operationalize that by 2028, with first launch being planned for next year, full commercial launch being planned for next year, followed by regular launches year on year till 2028. We have also launched an early access program on our website to understand customers' interests. While first few satellites will go into an orbit which supports Indian customers, we want to get the global interest to see in which orbital planes we should put our satellites, future satellites, so that they're most usable by the customers. And with respect to technology, this Varuna mission will ensure or will help us prove the flightworthiness of majority subsystems. And we plan to use the same subsystems for our future satellites, making them future-proof, scalable, and modular.
All right. Gaurav, as Varuna prepares to launch aboard ISRO's PSLV, how has their infrastructure supported your mission? If you could elaborate on that, and if you see further partnerships with India's space agency.
Yeah. So, in order to build a satellite before launching, you need to subject it to various environmental tests like vibration shakers as well as, thermo-vacuum tests. So for a private company to build this infrastructure, it would not be possible within 9 months. So we've used InSpace's technical center here in Ahmedabad for all of the testing as well as development in dedicated clean rooms. And this has ensured that, we could adhere to such strict timelines of 9 months from start to end. As well as in future, we, plan to collaborate with ISRO for future launches of our constellation. As well as also we are keen on taking several technologies from ISRO, which they are offering to private companies.
Well, Gaurav, we're going to keep a close eye on those launches and partnerships. But before we let you both go, Vineet, India is emerging as a hub for space startups. What do you think is going to set PierSight apart? And how are you leveraging India's growing ecosystem to scale globally as well in future?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we have a very strong expertise in the team in building satellites. So our strong domain expertise helps us, sets us apart. The other thing which sets us apart is, again, the strong focus towards indigenization, building the technology in India at a very low cost and very rapidly. So we will be able to service global customers very rapidly by launching these satellites very quickly. Right. Lastly, talking about the Indian ecosystem, ISRO has put India on the world stage, of being one of the most reliable space organizations, which led to a setup of a strong space ecosystem in the country. We have almost all suppliers available in the country for our satellite. More than 70% of the satellite is indigenized and is being done with suppliers from India. And we have also got a strong talent which came out from ISRO and DRDO, which is helping us leverage the ecosystem to deliver these satellites quickly.
All right. On that note, Gaurav and Vineet, many thanks for your time here on CNBC TV18, and we look forward to these launches, and we wish you all the very best with your space ventures. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ritu.
And moving on, supply chain fintech Volofin has secured $50 million in funding from a top US-based bank, which plans to increase this funding limit to $150 million over the next 2 to 3 years. With the latest funding, the company plans to provide Indian exporters with better access to trade finance and offer SMEs lending solutions. For more on this, let me welcome Roshan Shah, the co-founder and CEO of Volofin. Also on the show with me is my colleague Ritu. Roshan, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. First up, how does this $50 million funding align with Volofin's long-term vision? And how will you deploy this? What specific gaps in trade finance for SMEs are you aiming to address with this infusion?
Thank you for having me here, first of all. And in terms of what we plan to do with this 50 million, this is what we are in the business of lending. So we are a fintech, which is in cross-border trade finance. And we are largely focused on the exporters, where the Indian exporters selling to buyers across the globe, we coming in and financing their receivables. So our focus for this 50 million, it's for the medium term, we utilize this in terms of supporting the exporters and bringing in a lot more in terms of the facility and the funding amount further to boost the exports from India.
Well, Roshan, with plans to scale operations globally as well as in India, can you tell us what are the key markets or regions that you're looking to prioritize?
So we are physically present in 3 markets where we have people and offices on the ground. So that is with Singapore, US and India, with India being the largest for us as a market. So we'll continue to expand and make our strong footholds into these 3 geographies first, before we go into further more geographies in Asia.
Right. With the target of increasing the funding line to about $150 million over the next 2 to 3 years, what milestones or partnerships do you foresee as critical to achieving this goal?
So one thing which is very unique in terms of what we are doing as a supply chain and factoring platform, we are not only supporting the SMEs, but we are also creating an ecosystem for banks to come in and participate. Because this is one product, what we are doing where banks are also keen. And with the agility and the swiftness of a fintech, it becomes a very strong ecosystem for banks also to partner with us. So we see banks as a partnership rather than a competition. And that also speaks in terms of what we have got with this US bank. Plus, we have got also into a very unique partnership with India Exim Bank last month, which was there in the news. And that is from Gift City and the first of its kind partnership. And as we speak, there'll be more banks joining in, which would be Indian as well as multinational banks, where this scale would be much more in terms of what we are anticipating for this 150. This could possibly grow to 250 to 300 in the next 4 years as well.
Well, Roshan, I was wondering if you'd want to name who this US bank is, but also, SMEs, of course, we know do face challenges in accessing flexible financing solutions. If you could tell us, how you're ensuring, the benefit of your technology and innovations benefits this underserved segment.
So, I mean, of course, as much as I would have liked to disclose the name, we are bound by the non-disclosure for this. So cannot name, but I can tell you this is one of the top 5 global banks headquartered in the US where we have gotten this. And I'm sure at some point in time, we'll be able to put the name to it. And in terms of what we are doing, we are bringing in a lot more efficiencies to these SMEs. Today, when they are cash starved and with India as a growing market, at the macro level, we are boosting exports from India, we are boosting Make in India. And at the micro level, when we talk about the exporters or the SMEs per se, we are bringing in agility to their financing, which is much faster than what they expect from a bank. We are doing collateral free. It is coming in a very quick click of a button. Plus, it is also having them a tech-based enabling all their finances at one place. So it's a large and high level of efficiency coming in at both macro and micro level.
Right. And Roshan, if you could quickly, we're running out of time in 30 seconds, tell us, the fintech space is becoming increasingly competitive, right? So how does Volofin differentiate itself from other players in factoring and supply chain financing? And how will this partnership with the top global banks strengthen your position?
So while from the outside, it may look like a very crowded market, but the space that we are in, there is only a handful of players which are effectively doing what we are. Plus, we are in a very unique space because we are the only platform where we are bringing in as a multi-lender platform and banks coming in and joining us and joining the forces to bring this, much larger and much required support to the SMEs.
Sure. Well, Roshan, thanks very much. We're going to have to leave it at that. Thanks for your time here on CNBC TV18.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Well, we're going to take a short break on that note, but up next, Ola Electric unveils Gig and S1Z range of scooters. We'll speak to their head of product and design on the other side of this break. Welcome back. Ola Electric has announced the launch of its new Gig and S1Z range of scooters with introductory prices starting at Rs 39,999. Now, these models are designed for both personal and commercial use and offer removable batteries as well. For more on this, joining me now is Kripa Anandan, who is the head of design and product at Ola Electric. Kripa, thanks very much for your time here on Startup Street. Start by telling us about the lineup and the kind of upgrades and features they come with from a customer point of view.
So there are three key points that I'd like to talk about these scooters. The first one is that it's built on an adaptable and scalable platform. And with that, we are able to address a variety of use cases across personal and commercial necessities in rural, urban, and semi-rural areas. The second point is that it is a durable, reliable, affordable, and efficient series of products. And we hope with this that we will be able to address the needs of a lot of high-rise demands like gig workers and last-mile mobility needs. The third point is, this is the very sort of heart of the need, which is that it's built on this Ola portable battery. And this, we think, will address the concerns of range anxiety. And with this, you have, instant additional range, extended range.
About 40,000 to 65,000 kind of introductory prices. These are some of the lowest ranges that we've seen. How are these going to be sustainable from a business point of view from Ola? And what kind of pressure could this lead to on your margins, as you continue to price these at these kind of levels?
We are able to, as we see, this particular market is going sky high, it's skyrocketing. And we already have industry-leading gross margins. With these volumes, we think we will be able to leverage our operational costs and further increase our margins. We also are taking a step in a phased manner to have our own cells and thereby further increasing our costs, or reducing our costs.
So, Kripa, how many launches across these segments before the close of the financial year then?
We expect to launch these scooters in the timeline of March to May, these 4 scooters. And as I said, this platform is scalable and modular. We will be launching our motorcycles next year. We have said that over the next year, starting from March all the way till December, we'll be launching our motorcycles. We will be launching our Gen 3 scooters, the S1 scooters, starting from January, and further that adds to our profitability because every generation we are able to reduce our costs and improve our margins. We expect to get the advantages of cost over our S1 models over the year. So we launch in January and we expect to get 8 to 10 percentage point advantage.
What is Ola doing to improve the service capacity as you continue with this new product launches?
Yeah, that's a pertinent point. So what happened in the past quarter, especially Q2, is that our sales network outgrew our service network, and hence we saw some problems that were coming up, and these have been completely addressed. We will also be increasing our service network. So all our distribution network will have a service network alongside with that. We feel that with the increase in service network and with the training of service champions across India, we will be able to address these issues alongside our launches.
So that's the latest on Ola Electric's new launches. But moving on, XDLINX Space Labs, a space technology startup, has raised $7 million in a seed funding round. The round was led by Ashish Kacholia of Lucky Investments, with additional backing from E2MC, Mana Ventures, and a prominent family office. The funding will accelerate XDLINX's mission to revolutionize satellite technology. Joining me now to discuss this further is Rupesh Gandupalli, the co-founder and CEO of XDLINX Space Labs. Rupesh, thank you so much for taking time out and being here with us on Startup Street. First up, take us through what you're currently doing at XDLINX, what's on offer, ready to launch satellite platforms for global space missions, right? So if you could sort of explain this to us in layman terms and give us some use cases.
Yeah, first of all, thanks to CNBC for having me on the show. Yeah, from the XDLINX point of view, as you mentioned rightly, we are actually offering the satellite platform for global missions. So when we say the satellite platform, primarily today, the most challenging part is most of the space infrastructure being the supply chain being procured as an individual component and then make them as a fully functioning bus and then bring in the payloads into the satellites and then launch it for a specific use case, right? But what we are doing XDLINX at XDLINX Space Labs is that we're actually developing a modular and scalable bus platforms ranging between 10 kg to 200 kg class, which we believe it will cover it will address 60% of the overall space economy, what's been projected in next 5 to 6 years. And also along with that, by not just leaving the bus and platform, we're also developing some very niche and critical payloads, which are very much required for bringing any country's national ISR. When I say ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance space, sovereign space capabilities into space, and then help leverage that infrastructure for the surveillance and then bring in the monitoring and surveillance of the individual nations. So the idea is to bring in this fully integrated payload and the bus as a service that actually meets the specific use cases, and also offer the satellite bus platforms for various other commercial applications as well, where we bring in the hosted the payload coming from the customers, and when we integrate and launch. So when I say ready to launch, this will bring down that overall cost as well as primarily the lead times or the time to space basically by 5x. Basically, typically it used to be 2 to 3 years, but
yeah, well, Rupesh, we're running out of time, so if you could be really quick with your answers. You've raised the $7 million. If you could take us through how you plan to spend these funds. Yeah, so basically, we have actually already have the revenues, and then we also have a good pipeline to actually deliver this mission. So out of that, 1/3 of that, the revenue, the fund we raised is going to be spent towards the operating cost to few quarters, and 1/3 would be towards the working capital for the existing pipeline of the orders, and also 1/3 would be towards the R&D to develop that different other varieties of the payloads that will bring in more future missions. Right. So you've explained how you plan to spend the funds, but if you could sort of take us through the kind of clients you're currently servicing, what's the demand you're seeing? And you said you have the revenue. So where are your revenues at, and what are the targets for this year? So yeah, so it's a global. So our play is a global play where two streams. One being the federal, where the governments where can actually leverage our complete satellite service, where they can actually launch for bring in that space capabilities to operate, and then bring in that kind of required surveillance and reconnaissance, and also from a commercial side where a lot of companies are actually offering the data service Galaxy and other companies where we are actually helping them to actually integrate their payload, which have been developed by them, to bring into the space so that they can operate and then downlink the data and then bring in all the downstream mission analytics and then the value-added services. Right, and if you could sort of talk to us about Elevation 1, which you claim will feature the world's first miniaturized space-grade band payload, developed and scheduled to launch aboard SpaceX's Transporter 12 mission, right? If you could also tell us what this means for an average viewer. So basically, E-band. So the Elevation 1 is primarily launching very, very, very first miniaturized in the world space-grade E-band payload. E-band is the frequency which is being targeted for ultra broadband. Basically, today, what are the speed rates? What we have is broadband, but actually to actually bring in the higher rates to bring in that ultra broadband capability, E-band is what is the frequency being targeted. In fact, SpaceX is actually going to upgrade their the Starlink program to E-band. So we are actually launching very first space grade qualified E-band payload into space as a technology demonstration. On top of that, we have the long roadmap defined to kind of bring in the the E-band driven communication payload so that we can actually enable multiple service providers globally. All right, Rupesh, thank you so much for joining us on Startup Street. We're completely out of time, but we wish you all the best going forward. Thank you. Thanks for having me. And with that, it is a wrap on this edition of Startup Street. More news and updates coming up on the other side. Stay tuned.